Alright, I drilled pilot holes where I think they should go. I'm going to cut the holes for the climbing tubes. I'm not going to waste your time filming myself doing that, because a lot of the footage I've noticed in prior videos where I do habitat construction is just me like drilling for several minutes, and that's not exactly must-see TV. So I'm going to cut to after that's done. But once that's done, air will be able to equalize between the two chambers of each habitat tower, and I'll be able to then cannibalize lead weights from MegaHab, which I thought was the future of the project, but I don't think it is anymore. I think this design is much better. Then I'll have enough weights to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, I guess, in each of these to weigh these down, and I'll then be able to test these in the aquarium. So exciting times ahead. Okay, that went well enough. It came really close to the edge of the bolt, but there's no cracks there. That's the important thing. I'm going to swab some silicone sealant around here just to make sure. I mean, I already swabbed it around the edges in between these two containers and underneath every washer, so it's as watertight as I can make it, but there's no harm in just going a little bit extra overboard. If I had this to do over again, I might position this more like over here. I'm just trying to squeeze out as much usable space as possible without having the climbing tubes take up too much room. Don't mind all the plastic pigtails. I'm about to vacuum those out. Don't mind the grocery bags either. My cat likes to hide in them. Everything that she can fit inside is a cat fort. Speaking of forts, I've got these neat little hidey holes for the mice and a dish. Still thinking about where I'm going to put the water bottles. Undecided yet. I can't put them in the middle because then there's not enough room for a running wheel. I'll have to think on that. Alright, here it is with the climbing tube installed. The other one also has one installed now. That might be a little bit low. I might have to crank that up a little bit. I don't know how I'm going to stop the mice from chewing these. Mice love to chew this soft plastic. I haven't solved that issue yet. I can put hot sauce around the rim, but that doesn't last forever. Some kind of coating, like if a solid metal coating would be best. They hate metal, they won't chew on that. I don't know if there's something I can dip it in. That'll be permanent. That's got to get solved though, otherwise I'll just have to keep replacing these tubes every so often. Put the little fort on top of where the tube comes out so they feel safe going into and out of it. Also, it does double duty as a little neat fort. Pardon how dirty these are. I've been working on them and not cleaning them for a while. Sorry for how long this is taking too. I keep skipping months. I don't mean to do that, but real life gets in the way. The lead acid battery in my car died because I'm an idiot who left the inverter turned on until that was completely flat, and I have been saving my pennies to replace that, which I'm going to have to do myself because they wanted $300 at Les Schwab and $400 to come and install it themselves. So I just got the right battery off of Amazon. I'm going to do it my own damn self. The other thing is I'm preparing book 2, my second published anthology for publication. We're working on a lot of things to promote it, like the YouTube channel, which is going to utilize 11 Labs AI voice synthesis for incidental vocal roles and audio narrations of my work. We're trying to shoot for the same production quality as like No Sleep Podcast, but with way fewer people and with way less money. So hopefully AI can help sort of fill in the gaps with that. That's not really an excuse. I don't mean to shortchange you guys. It's just I have other ambitions in my life besides submerging hamsters, if you can believe it. And I've been having to split my attention between the hamster submerging and other projects, the stuff I really want to do with my life in the long term. Thank you for being patient. I hope this suffices for now to get these things fully put together to the point where I can submerge them and we can do in-water testing to make sure that they're watertight as I expect them to be. Now I'm going to drill the holes for these little air inlet dealies right here. I have a drill bit that's just exactly the right diameter. I'll spare you the process of drilling itself. I don't think that makes for very riveting footage. And cut to after it's finished. So this goes into here. And although I use silicone sealant on everything else, I typically use super glue or cyanoacrylate glue on the rim of this thing, because otherwise it pulls out from just jostling the air hose. Why not at the very bottom? Because I want there to be space to add the power cord for a heated floor if I ever want to add that. I don't need it in the aquarium because I heat the aquarium water. And I can't really use the heated pads with mice because mice chew the wires out, as I discovered with the current Habitat modules. Now, why is it so low? Why did I not have the air hose coming in the top, which would seem more logical? That's because CO2 is denser than oxygen. So in a given volume of air, the CO2-rich air will tend to gravitate towards the bottom of the chamber, whereas the fresher air will rest at the top. By having the fresh air inlet be at the bottom, I force a constant circulation that makes sure that no anoxic pockets or CO2-rich pockets can develop. The last reason almost escaped my mind. It's just that, and generally speaking, whenever you can, with a positive pressure habitat, you want to keep the hole penetrations as low as possible. That way, statistically, you maximize the odds that if a leak develops somewhere, it'll be low on the structure so that the water will only be able to rise to the point of the leak. Okay, the air inlet is in and super glued. It supposedly insta-cures with the accelerant spray, but I'm going to let that strengthen overnight before I put it in the water. I don't have the water bottles in, by the way, but those aren't necessary just to test it for leaks. I don't think there should be. I think I've gotten sealing these things down to a science by now, and this is tight as a drum. If it's going to leak from anywhere, it'll be from here because I used slightly too large a hole saw. You should use a small diameter one. I would have lost nothing by it. This is about the diameter of the actual tube at the end anyway, so if the mice can make it through here, they could make it through a smaller hole than that, and then the rubber seal would have sat more firmly against the outer surface of the habitat shell. But I digress. What are my goals with this? This was just to go as big as possible within the aquarium. I don't know if going as bigger than this is even really necessary. I originally conceived of this project as being like a huge city of interconnected habitat modules in like a lake or a pond. The problem being that anywhere I have access to, the surface support equipment will get stolen by tweakers within 24 hours. So this is going to forever be confined to bodies of water on land that I can prevent other people from having access to, which sort of inherently limits its constraint. If this was like some kind of fantasy project with unlimited government funding, or not even unlimited, just a lot of funding, we could have like a huge indoor pool like NASA has, and do this at the bottom of that, and then have a team of people that with scuba gear that goes down to replace modules as necessary over time. That's not really conceivable, given that nothing really valuable is learned from it, but that's sort of a sobering look at what it would really take to realize the full scope of what I imagined Hampture could be once upon a time. I've cut the air hose. I'm not going to be bothering with sensor cable for the moisture sensors just yet, because again, that's not necessary for in-water testing. I'm just going to get the seaworthiness tests out of the way. On a related note, I've been wasting a lot of my life on RimWorld, which is probably a very familiar time sink to many of you, but I feel like this is not entirely wasted time, because it's teaching me many lessons relevant to Hampture, and I guess just more generally towards habitat design for complex warm-blooded creatures. This is my moon base, made of identically dimensioned modules. It's modular. They grow all their own food. It's completely self-sufficient. They do all their mining on the moon. It's distributed this way because this is the maximum diameter of the protective force fields, so that the force fields can encompass 100% of the base. It has housing for 64 people. Each individual apartment has all the stuff you could reasonably hope to include, and the space is allotted to them. They're color-coded. There's a prison up here. There's a hospital down here. There's aquaculture there for raising fish, which is one of my 2 meat sources. The goal was just to support as many people in as much comfort and luxury as possible, which is why they have such a well-apportioned recreation center with a pool and a holodeck and all this gambling. They love to gamble. They got the little fucking hot tubs. They're all just stoked out of their minds if you check their needs tab when it comes to the recreation. I've also set it up so there's such an abundance of food that despite the inherently wasteful resource requirements of lavish meals, every one of these 64 colonists is able to eat lavish meals for every meal of the day. And I have a distribution of different meal types to suit different tastes. I've got carnivore meals, I've got vegetarian meals, and I've got meals that have both meat and veggies. I also grow them a limited variety of recreational drugs. Here's the science lab. Let's look at the temperature gauge. That's actually the only cold storage area in the base. I could just store stuff outside, but it would still deteriorate despite being in vacuum. RimWorld's just like that. I've got the workshop down here. This is an interesting problem to solve for me. It's in the wheelhouse of Hampture. It's just a problem creating hostile environment living space and trying to meet every possible need and anticipate all the needs of really complicated variable creatures. And this is a problem that SpaceX is going to have to solve, or some other private spaceflight company, because if humankind meaningfully expands beyond the Earth, given the cost and time frames involved in terraforming and the fact that there's only one planet that we could realistically terraform in the solar system, most humans are eventually going to be living in artificial living spaces like this, whether that's an O'Neill cylinder or habitats on the surface of other planets. So it really is an important problem to solve now, just laying the groundwork to figure out how to create indoor spaces that are comfortable and ergonomic and psychologically amenable to human life in the long term for large numbers of people. Well, I hate myself and I want to die. I wasn't paying attention and I drilled this hole into the front instead of the back. That's always going to be staring me in the face now when this is in the water, and I have to seal this off and I guess clip both ends of this, and I hate that. I want to start all over, but I of course can't afford to. So I drilled another hole in the back. I don't have another one of these things though. I only had 2 left, so I can't do it. I don't know if I can do in-water test or not, actually. I'll have to try to scrounge up another one. I've already super glued this one in place. God damn it! Okay, crisis averted. I found one more of these. Still, that's... you can't necessarily tell it from my voice, I don't think, but I'm really upset about that. It does nothing. It just gets in the way of the visibility of the front surface. That's always going to be staring me in the face every time I use the habitat. People might say, what does that do? And I'll have no good answer for them, except that I'm a stupid fucking dumb idiot who wasn't paying attention when he drilled a hole, even though you can't redo it. That really bothers me. Okay, the correct one is in now. My skin's still crawling. At least we won't have to postpone the in-water testing for another month so I can afford a 25-cent part. It's not going to be symmetrical. It's going to have one of these on one side but not the other. Okay, it's nice to see them in the water, just to get an idea of how tall they'll be relative to where the surface of the water is. I can even fill it a little bit more. It's deeper than I thought it would be. It'll be fine when I get it sealed correctly, but apparently I don't have it sealed correctly right now because there are leaks. There's a small leak. Droplet of water back there. It doesn't seem to be growing. I don't know what that means. This one mostly looks watertight. It's bubbling too because I have the gate valves shut, because this one is leaking considerably. The water seems to be coming down from the climbing tube, which tells me that either... no, there's pretty much only one explanation for that, which is that the ring of silicone sealant between the 2 floors, the 2 habitat shells, has a gap somewhere in it, and the water is seeping in through that gap, and then in through the hole that I drilled with a hole saw for the climbing tube. So I can solve that 2 ways, and I'm going to use both. I'm going to take it apart, and because it's put together with silicone sealant, so that's easy to do. It's not like in the past where I did everything with super glue and I couldn't fix anything if there was something wrong. I can definitely fix this. I just have to undo the bolts, peel off the silicone sealant, reapply the sealant, this time apply some around the climbing tube as well, the hole for it anyway. Then put it back together, and we'll try this again, I guess a week or two from now, and see how it fares then. But as things stand today, I mean, it could have been worse. It wasn't the perfect initial showing I was hoping for, but then you have to fail 100 times before you succeed once. This is why I test them, though, in the aquarium for 3 days typically before any animal goes inside, because you really never know how things are going to shake out until the habitat hits the water. Reveal your secrets, bag cat. What's your end game? Why do you sit on the bag?